Everyone, and before we call this meeting to order, we will hear instruction on how the public may access Spanish interpretation.
Good afternoon. We're offering live interpretation in Spanish during this meeting. If you wish to hear Spanish interpretation, please click the interpretation button at the bottom right of your Zoom screen. You will see a globe icon. If you're joining via the Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More or in the three dots at the bottom right corner of your screen. Select Language Interpretation, then choose Spanish and click Done. If you wish to hear only the interpreters and not the original speakers, be sure to click Mute Original Audio. Buenas tardes, estamos ofreciendo interpretación en vivo en español durante esta reunión. Si desea escuchar la interpretación en español, haga clic en el botón Interpretation, que significa interpretación, en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla Zoom. Verá un icono de globo terráqueo. Si se está uniendo a través de la aplicación Zoom con teléfono inteligente, smartphone, seleccione su idioma haciendo clic en More, que significa más, o en los tres puntos en la esquina inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione Language Interpretation, que es interpretación del idioma. Después elija Spanish y haga clic en Done, que significa listo. Si desea escuchar solo a los intérpretes y no a los oradores originales, asegúrese de hacer clic en Mute Original Audio, que es silenciar audio original. Thank you, and back to the council.
Thank you. All right, we can go ahead on with our oath of office for Commissioner Imhoff.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Susan Blankenship. I'm the city clerk. And Mr. Imhoff, would you please raise your hand and repeat after me? I, please state your name.
I, Stephen Imhoff,
Solemnly swear that I will support and defend
solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
I will well and faithfully discharge
I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties about which I am to enter.
Congratulations. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you very much. And thinking let's take like a 5-minute break before we get started, just to wait for
I think it is my
Doug.
I've never texted him before.
Yeah, if it's okay, I would like to give it 5 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't have any text history with him, but
In that case, I call this meeting to order. Could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to roll call.
Yes, I will take roll call. Chair Viorchek,
Present.
Vice Chair Feiger,
Here.
Commissioner Lexinger,
Here.
Commissioner Imhoff,
Here.
and Commissioner Williams is absent at the moment.
Thank you. With that, we will go ahead and move forward to public communications, which is the public's opportunity to speak on any topic which is not on today's agenda, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with the Brown Act, the Planning Commission cannot deliberate or vote on any matter raised under public communications, but may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak in the audience? Nope. All right. Let us open it up for our virtual platform.
There are no current attendees over Zoom.
Okay. Our very first item is reorganizing of the Planning Commission. I would like to move this item to a point when we, no, it's first. Yeah, so I would like to move this item to be after our consent agenda. If that's all, yeah, okay. In that case, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Once again, start with public comment on this item. So it's the public's opportunity to speak on any topic listed on the consent agenda with comments limited to 3 minutes. Seeing no one in the audience, let's open it back up to Zoom.
No attendees over Zoom at the moment.
All right, thank you. Let's bring it back to the Planning Commission. Do we have any thoughts, comments, or motions?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, thank you.
It didn't kill very much time.
Yeah, no. Can we take another break? 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's
All
do
right,
that.
let's go ahead and do a 5-minute break.
Record this vote.
Oh, yeah, we didn't vote yet, so let's vote first.
That motion carries.
All right, thank you. We will take a 5-minute break. Welcome back, everyone. We will, do we need to update our roll call?
I will just note for the record that Commissioner Williams is now in attendance.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we will now go back to our item number 1, reorganization of the Planning Commission, which is the 2025 Chair and Vice Chair selection. Do we need to have a public comment on this item?
We will take public comment, yes.
Okay. In that case, do we have any public comment? Seeing none in the audience? Zoom?
There are no hands raised over Zoom.
All righty, bringing it back to Planning Commission. Does anybody have thoughts, comments, questions, motions?
I'll kick it off by saying I think, Natalia, you do a great job. I'd love to see you continue as chair if you're willing. I'm happy to step aside as vice chair, and I think I nominate Ms. Luxinger to take that position if you're interested. The idea of moving people around and, yeah, while maintaining some continuity. Open to other ideas, but I was thinking about it today, and
I would agree that Natalia is great at being chair, and I would be willing to take vice chair, tackle the challenge if needed, so.
Any other thoughts, feelings? No? I'll just take it off. I'll make the motion to, I guess, remain chair and have Ms. Luxinger join me as vice chair.
I'll second that motion. I'll second that.
Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Sorry, I skipped the vote. All right, do you see the option to vote now? Okay. All right, that motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. It's much appreciated. With that, we'll move on to new business and our Planning Commission orientation. Mr. Hitchcock, the floor is yours.
Good, John Hitchcock, Planning Manager. Could we get the slideshow up, please? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Davis. So staff thought it might be a good idea to, with the recent appointment of Mr. Imhoff and then Mr. Williams coming back to the council, we thought it'd be a good idea just to do a presentation on Planning Commission orientation. I believe the last time we did this was 2019, and I think only Natalia and Gavin might have been on the commission. Here's an outline of today's presentation. We're going to talk about Planning Commission powers and duties, your decision-making process. I'm going to skip the Brown Act and ethics. You're actually scheduled for a joint meeting with the City Council on the 25th next week, where they will be discussing that particular item. Talk about staff roles and support in the Planning Commission. Talk about the Land Use Planning Regulatory Authority. A little bit about Development Services Department, and then finish up with your schedule for this coming year. First item is Planning Commission powers and duties. The Planning Commission powers and duties are outlined in City Council Resolution 2020-14-016. It specifically states that the Planning Commission will assist in the preparation, update of, and recommendation to City Council concerning the general plan for the physical development of the city, perform those duties set forth in Title VII of the Planning and Land Use of the California Government Code. This has a lot to do with noticing requirements, how you go about approving a project, and also how you go about making your environmental findings pursuant to CEQA. And also serve on an annual basis as a delinquent refuse hearing board. This is done every year, where you will hear comments from the public who are delinquent on their STR fees. And this occurs during the summer months, and it'll be coming to you in the next few months. And then with two other members who are of the aviation community, this planning commission serves as the Airport Land Use Commission. The Airport Land Use Commission are responsible for administering the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan and assisting the city in ensuring compatible land uses within the vicinity of the airport. Talk a little bit about roles of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission plays an important role in implementing the city's physical development. It acts as an advisory board to the city council, reviews development applications, is the primary decision-making body for many projects, which are also subject to city council appeal. A lot of these type of projects are design reviews, use permits, and variances. The Planning Commission also, through the public hearing process and other means, provides a key venue for residents and other community stakeholders to learn about planning issues and project proposals and listen to their inputs. And example of these are when we bring forward things like area plans, master plans, and specific plans for your consideration. Generally, we'll hold workshops before the Plan Commission to take in public input and also to hear your input on that planning process. And occasionally, you will hear appeals of our zoning administrator and staff decisions. For example, if a VHR permit is revoked and it's appealed, it will come to the Planning Commission for consideration. In your role as a Planning Commission, you'll be asked to make decisions such as making recommendations to the governing body. This includes making recommendation on policy matters such as general plans, zoning ordinances, and development agreements. For example, today you're going to be taking a look at a proposed ordinance amendment related to timeshares that Ms. Stroud will be presenting after this. You're also, in your decision-making process, applying those policies and state law to specific projects. And then also, as part of decision-making part, consider staff analysis, including agency goals and policies, along with community input during your decision-making process. I think I already mentioned this. You will act as a appellate body on the entitlement decision process. All staff decisions at staff level are appealable to the city council. You're also the decision maker on project review, design reviews, use permits, and variances. In this capacity, you'll be tasked with making objective determinations using facts and drawing conclusions from them. You'll be basing your decisions on approval or denial on existing policy and law. And then you'll be required to make project-specific findings, for example, making consistency findings with general plan, with the specific plans, as well as the city code of ordinance, as well as other findings required by law, and also findings for consistency with the California Environmental Quality Act. And I think I mentioned decisions. Our decision by Plan Commission can be challenged, and the court of law is the final decisive authority. A little bit about your staff support. You're supported by the Planning Commission clerk, Ms. Davis. They are in charge of public records and meeting coordination and logistics. Legal advice is provided by Mr. Barzell, our assistant city attorney. And then also planning advice is provided by the Development Service Department with Mr. Zachary as Director of Development Services, myself, the planning manager. We also have Jeremy Harrison, our building official, Ms. Wackenhut, our housing manager, and then Ms. Miranda, our administrative clerk, who prepares the minutes, agendas, and PC packets that arrive in your email box. This is probably the longest part of the presentation, but about the regular land use authority. The city derives its regular authority to govern its territories through laws and regulations to protect the public health, safety, and welfare through the police powers granted to the city in the California Constitution, Article 11. These police powers to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the public and to govern its authority are enacted through the city's general plan. All jurisdictions are required to adopt a comprehensive long-term general plan for the physical development of the city. The general plan acts as the city's constitution in making land use decisions, and all decisions are required to be, the decisions that staff makes and the Plan Commission makes as it relates to land use decisions need to be consistent with the city general plan. The general plan itself, provides a statement of broad development policies, and also includes diagrams and text setting forth city objectives, principles, standards, and plan proposals. These broad policies, objectives, and principles are also further refined in other documents that can be adopted by local jurisdictions, such as specific plans, which I'll get to in a few seconds here. Want to talk a little bit the planning hierarchy. As I mentioned, the general plan in the planning hierarchy sits at the top of the pyramid. All other plans, zoning documents, zoning ordinance, development standards are required to be consistent with the general plan. And then any design review, use permits, or variances, projects that we approve in the Planning Commission group needs to be consistent with those plans as well as the general plan. This is ensure that there is internal consistency from bottom to top, that any project that is approved is consistency with all relevant adopted documents and the general plan. The city general plan was adopted in 2030. It's a 2030 South Lake Tahoe general plan. It was adopted in 2011. The elements that are highlighted in red are the required elements pursuant to California state law. The city all opted to add 2 additional elements, the economic development element and the neighborhood priority list. Of note, the last element to be updated in the general plan was the housing element in 2022. And then as I mentioned, you have the general plan, but then the California state law also allows us to adopt specific plans that allows us to develop more detailed land use plans and land use guidance for specific areas of the city. So generally what we do in that case is we take general plan, broad policies, and we bring them down into the local level. We get public input, and then we develop specific plans that are specific and unique to specific areas of the basin that responds to the desired community character. The 2 specific plans we have, dash area plans, I use the terms interchangeably. In California state law, we refer to these plans as specific plans. In TRPA world, we refer them to as area plans. We have 2 adopted plans. The Tourist Core Area Plan, which was adopted in 2013, and the Tahoe Valley Area Plan adopted in 2015. Both of these plans were recently amended in December to promote additional housing options in these 2 area plans and also to streamline the permitting process. We have 2 other documents associated with our planning efforts in the basin. Those are called community plans. These are holdovers from the the mid-90s and early 2000s. We have 2. One is the Bijou Tahoe Community Plan adopted in 1995 and the Southwide Industrial Community Plan adopted in 2003. Currently right now on our work program, we are not working on updating the Southwide Industrial Community Plan. This is the area off Lake Tahoe Boulevard past the Y. However, we are working on the Midtown Area Plan, which would replace the Bijou Tahoe Community Plan. We're currently in the public planning process, taking input from the public and interested stakeholders, and we will be coming to the Planning Commission in the near future to discuss what we've heard from the public and to move forward with the planning project. We're looking to probably have adoption of this document in the fall. Another component of land use planning in the basin is our planner statements and zoning regulations. The city did adopt TRPA's planner statements, which provides a description of allowed land uses in specific areas in the city. If you look at the map here, you'll see that it's segregated by colors. The areas that are in yellow are residential, red are commercial, purple are tourist areas, and then blue are recreation, green are conservation areas. Each one of these zoning districts or planner statements provide the zoning type, whether it's commercial, residential, tourist accommodation, includes a list of type of permissible uses that are allowed or allowed as a special use, provides the density standards for each of the different uses, and also in some cases has specific policies that we're required to implement in each one of these zoning districts. Other documents that we will refer to in our planning process are the Park Trails and Recreation Master Plan, the Bijou Park Master Plan, as well as the Lake Tahoe Airport Comprehensive Land Use Plan. We also have adopted the design guidelines. Design guidelines are not mandatory, but are highly recommended to ensure development is compatible with the Tahoe environment and desired community character. The design guidelines provide examples for applicants who are interested in developing or redeveloping in the basin. And it helps applicants understand the architectural vernacular that the community desires in the city of South Lake Tahoe. And last but not least, Development Code, Title VI of the City Code. These are development design standards that all projects are subject to in the city of South Lake Tahoe. And as part of the staff's job is to evaluate projects for consistency with Title VI, and also for the Planning Commission, when a project comes before you, to make the findings that that project is also consistent with the City Development Code. The city makes our zoning information available to the public. It's available on our website. We provide a GIS map that allows applicants to select a parcel, determine what zoning district there is, and then determine what type of uses and what special policies would be available to them. And this is available on our front-facing website. So to wrap it up, in summary, we call this a triad of planning. When reviewing projects, and the Planning Commission, as well as staff and the Planning Commission, we make decisions, we must ensure that any project is consistent with all planned land uses. That's the general plan, the specific plans, and various documents, zoning and development standards that are applicable to the project, as well as making sure that we make the findings that the project meets the California Environmental Quality Act, whether it requires initial study or whether it's a CEQA exemption. And also for projects that have dual permitting with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, we also need to make the TRPA finding of no significant effect. A little bit about the Development Service Department. We have three divisions: building, planning, and housing. The building division, which is managed by Jeremy Harrison, includes the permit center. They do plan checking and permitting, as well as inspections. Planning department, which I manage, we have two functions. We really have two functions: current planning and long-range planning. And the housing division, which is managed by Ms. Wackenhut, primarily responsible for administering the housing program, making sure we're in compliance with all our grants, and then implementing the housing element, which is a really important aspect in the state of California. We're required to report on an annual basis our progress on meeting our what they call regional housing assessment numbers. So the planning division, for current planning is essentially design review, use permits, and variances. Review applications for consistency with city goals, regulations of the city, as well as TRPA. We also provide customer support and public inquiries. We get a lot of inquiries at the public counter. People come in, they tell us what their parcel is, and they're interested in knowing what could they do on their parcels. So that's an essential service we provide to the public. And we're also responsible for maintaining the city's planning and zoning database to make sure they're updated and correct. For long-range planning efforts, those are things like the specific plan, area plans. Those are long-term planning products. It involves a lot of public input and community planning processes. We're also responsible for amending planner statements if one does come before us, and also doing special studies, reports, and planning initiatives as directed by the City Council. The building division is the permit center is responsible for doing permit intake. This is primarily projects for building permits. And they also provide customer support in the permit center. The building department is responsible for issuing building permits, city building permits, as well as TRPA TRPA permits. Their staff does site inspections, as well as BMP inspections, and also winterization inspections on an annual basis when TRP comes out and audits our projects. They also provide code interpretation, support, and consultation. I'm not a building official. I'm not an expert in building code, but it's dense. And part of their responsibility is doing code interpretation and make it simple for customers to understand. They're also responsible for fire inspections and also building code violations. Last but not least, we have the housing division. They're responsible for implementing the housing element. As I mentioned earlier, they also manage the multifamily dwelling inspection program, the single-room occupancy inspection program, housing hotline, manage the lease to local program and the rental assistance program, grant compliance, and then a major component of the housing program is promoting affordable housing development and preservation of existing house stocks. And the last item is the Planning Commission schedule. This was adopted back in December. All your meetings are scheduled on the third Thursday of each month, except for June, November, and December. And there is no meeting scheduled for July, and all meetings start at 3 p.m. in this chamber. And that concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for all of that information. Do we have any questions for Mr. Hitchcock? Nope. All right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. With that, we will open this item
I thought you were going to miss public comment.
for public comment. Thank you for the quick, almost reminder. Seeing no one in the audience, let's open it up for
We'll go
Zoom.
ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on item 3. There are no hand raised at this time.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission for any chats. All right, there is no motion on this item. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to item 4, and we will hear a presentation from Ms. Stroud regarding the amendments to the timeshare ordinance, confirming that fractional ownerships are timeshares and making other updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Heather Stroud, City Attorney, and pleased to present these proposed amendments to you today. So these amendments are being proposed at the request of City Council, and I'll go into a little bit of the history of how this came about. Our timeshare ordinance has been around for quite some time, but has not been amended since 2006, so it's time for a little bit of an update. A new type of timeshare has popped up in recent years that's known as a fractional ownership. And in 2021, we started to get complaints that this type of use was popping up in single-family residences where they were being split into 8 shares, 8 fractional ownerships, and then essentially operating as a timeshare by a company called Picasso. So at that time, my office sent out a courtesy notice to Picasso and the local realtors group to let them know that this was in violation of the city code, and didn't receive a great response to that. So, and then a few months later, sent a cease and desist notice to the same entities to get them to stop advertising these properties as timeshares. That action did prevent more from being established, but before the cease and desist notice went out, there were 3 properties that were established as these fractional ownerships in single-family residences. So in 2024, we started to get complaints again that those shares were being resold. Our code enforcement division issued a couple of citations to Picasso, and that resulted in a little bit of back and forth, and finally some settlement agreements that the compromise struck was that Picasso could continue to operate those 3 properties, but would not expand anymore to single-family residences in the city. At the time the city council was considering those settlement agreements, they did request that I bring back an amendment to just make crystal clear that these type of uses are timeshares and that they are not allowed in residential areas. There are a few other cleanup amendments, I guess I'd call them, besides that one change, which the clarification is in the changes in section 6.60.020 subsection O, which are in the definitions and the definition specifically of timeshare, to add that whatever form the ownership is in, that a timeshare means the exclusive right to use and occupy a unit on a periodic basis in any manner, which under the laws of the state of California constitutes a timeshare plan or estate. So the other cleanup amendments have to do with removing some references to outdated TRPA regulations and definitions, and also for consistency with state law, specifically the Vacation Ownership and Timeshare Act of 2004, which has a number of terms defined that are also in our code, so just cleaning up those definitions so they're not inconsistent. And I would also like to add that there's a finding in the ordinance that this is not a project under CEQA because there's no change from the current application of the ordinance. It's just a clarification, so no change in the environment. And there is a resolution before you that would be recommending that the city council adopt these changes for adoption today. And with that, I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stroud. Do we have any questions? Oh,
So what is the difference between,
could you do your mic?
I hit it twice. What is the difference between this type of fractional ownership that you're talking about and a tenancy in common?
Well, the key to what a timeshare is that it has a use to exclusive, or ability to exclusively use it on a periodic basis. So you, in other words, it's a split up over time, so you have an estate and to use it in a certain time per year.
Okay, but what I'm talking about for title purposes.
So a tenants in common would just be ownership, but by a couple people owning the property. They might informally arrange amongst themselves when they can use it, but there's no legal right to be using it only a certain number of weeks per year.
So these units that were sold, or and that were marketed, in the title, when they, and with the deed, am I understanding this correctly, they actually had exclusive rights to these weeks?
They have exclusive rights to a 1/8, use it 1/8 of the time. And then Picasso manages the property and assigns the weeks that they're able to use each year. But
Okay.
they're only allowed to use it for 1/8 of the year under the property right that they purchased.
So is that in the deed?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
And as they were advertised by Picasso and some of the realtors early on, they were advertised as a 1/8 share.
Because I can see, like if the five of us decided to purchase a house, and we did it in tenancy in common, we can all have an agreement at that point to say, okay, well, I want to use it, my fair share of the purchases. Would that be illegal under the circumstance?
No, that is not implicated. That would not be considered a timeshare under state law or our ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I'm trying to find out what exactly, is there a legal entity on the way, how did these people take title for these properties?
In what name? Do you mean, did they take title in
So
their own name or?
They had 8 people purchase one of these properties.
So how
How was
it
title
works
taken?
was Picasso purchased the property, fixed it up, and then sold it as shares to 8 different people. It could be at all at the same time or over time.
Was it tenancy in common, or what type of title was
No.
taken?
They bought a 1/8 share. It'd be essentially like, it's the same type of title as if you're buying a timeshare.
Okay, so they didn't do it in tenancy in common, which apparently is probably the main issue, because of the tenancy in common.
Yeah, these are not a tenancy in common.
Okay. And then, so the timeshare program amendment, what is it, I'm not quite finding out what it is you're trying to amend in the timeshare.
The primary amendment is in the definitions section. Maybe the easiest place to see it is in the red line, in subsection O, which is the definition of timeshare. So what was added was that the timeshare is the exclusive right to use and occupy a unit on a periodic basis in any manner which under the laws of state of California constitutes a timeshare plan. And then the language that was added is irrespective of whether such rights are a result of a grant of ownership rights, possessory rights, membership rights, rights pursuant to a contract, or ownership of a fractional interest or share in the unit.
And how does that work with the new, most of the timeshares are currently doing a different program where they're not getting exclusive rights in a unit, and pretty much like Marriott and Hilton are selling weeks, but not necessarily in a specific unit.
Yeah, that is covered under state law. I believe that's considered a
It's more
I'm trying to
club.
remember the difference between timeshare estate and timeshare plan. That may be a timeshare plan.
Okay, so we're not considering a timeshare plan where they're selling just weeks, right to use a week anywhere in their group.
Yeah, none of this affects that type of current timeshare, which is allowed under state law, and we do allow it in commercial areas here.
Yeah, because I know that's what Marriott and Hilton's doing for the most part, and pretty much all of them are now changing that to that basis from the standard timeshares. Okay.
Just a couple questions. With respects to the, so basically you want to treat these fractionals the same as the timeshares? You're going to allow that?
They are, so this new model that has come up recently is to take a single-family residence and turn it into a timeshare by fractional ownership, and that is not allowed. That was, in my interpretation, not allowed under the code before these amendments, which is why we issued the cease and desist notice. Our code doesn't allow any timeshares in residentially zoned areas.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Ms. Stroud.
Thank you.
And we will go ahead and move on to public comment on this item. Do we have anyone? Nope. All right, let's open it up to
We'll
Zoom.
go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 4. There are no hands raised.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the Planning Commission. So I think the questions raised, at least for me, answered pretty much anything that I was inquiring about. Because, yeah, like, I understand what Mr. Williams is saying. If, like, you know, a large family decides to own a home together, but they're separate owners in a trust or something like that, you're still totally allowed to do that in a residential area. But here, this was a commercial venture selling time in a single-family home, which is absolutely not all right. Do we have any motions or any more thoughts, comments? All right.
I will make a motion to pass a resolution recommending that City Council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 6.60 of the South Lake Tahoe City Code, timeshare, confirming that fractional ownerships are timeshares and making other updates.
Second.
That motion carries.
All right, thank you, everyone, for an exciting planning commission. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our updates and announcements from city staff, if there are any. Mr. Hitchcock?
Your next scheduled meeting is April 17th, 3 p.m. here in council chambers. We took the annual progress report to city council. They accepted it, and it has been accepted to the state, so we met the requirements of the law.
Wonderful, thank you. Anyone else?
Just a reminder that on Tuesday is the joint ethics training with the council. That's it. Thank you. And welcome, new commissioners.
Is there anything we need to like bring to the training, or how long should we expect to be here?
So that, that notice should go out today from the city clerk. So that will include the information packet as part of the agenda packet, just like any other meeting. I'm not aware of any other special material besides that.
Yes, I can just add on to that a little bit. The agenda packet was emailed to you all before this meeting, and the meeting will take place between 3 to 5 p.m.
Is there ability to go Zoom on that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there ability to go to Zoom on that?
Attending over Zoom? No, it would be in-person requirement.
Yeah, I don't believe we have Zoom available for that.
Or the public can attend over Zoom, but the council members and commissioners will need to be in person.
Okay, because last time when I had to do that, we did do it via Zoom, but that was during COVID, so.
Commissioner Williams, we can chat offline about that if you'd like.
It's gonna be here. I know it's gonna be in the packet, but
Yes, it will take place in the council chambers.
Awesome, thank you very much. Do we have any other updates? No? All right, thank you. In that case, do we have any comments, reports, thoughts from the Planning Commission itself? No? Well, congratulations, Julia.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Welcome. You're gonna get a whole new label, which is awesome. And then Mr. Imhoff, welcome.
Thank you very
It'll
much.
be a lot of fun. Let me tell you. All right, well, with that, we are adjourned.